The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, Mordecai Richler. Tracing Duddy's moral progressions and regressions throughout the novel through his apprenticeships to Simca, Mr. Cohen, Yvette, Jared Dingleman, Lenny, and Uncle Benji. Duddy's desire to acquire land is troubled by the relationships he fosters between himself and other figures in the novel who influence his ability to cultivate a coherent moral character. Richler makes it clear in his novel that Simca's statement holds the most significance to Duddy's ambitions of attaining wealth and property. However, as he tends to do in most interactions with other characters, Duddy misconstrues his grandfather's message and interprets its superficial implications rather than contextualizing it through a moral framework. Duddy's determination to acquire land comes at a price, as he must sacrifice social, familial, and romantic relationships to fulfill his desires. While Duddy inevitably does attain property in the hopes of making his grandfather proud, Simca cannot reconcile Duddy's success with the knowledge of his outstanding lack of integrity. Though Simca has the potential to impart moral guidance onto his grandson, Duddy proves to have a complete lack of interest in adopting morals that challenge his ambitions of being commercially successful. Although he is morally ambiguous and less appreciative of Duddy than his brother, Uncle Benji does inevitably resolve to impart some advice to Duddy. Being one of the most knowledgeable figures in regards to Duddy's true character, Uncle Benji's guidance could potentially be the most pertinent in correcting his nephew's deviation from a positive set of moral values. Benji's advice for Duddy to adopt a singular identity stems from his understanding of Duddy as duplicitous in the way he conducts himself by entertaining any possibility to attain wealth. Rather than mature in the way that Uncle Benji prescribes, Duddy's unwillingness to heed his uncle's advice and to sell the contents of his uncle's home despite Benji's prohibition makes him appear morally irredeemable.
Duddy displays immense insincerity towards Yvette, consistently ignoring her advice and her emotional needs. Yvette routinely entertains herself by enjoying the company of Mr. Fryer and later Virgil. Duddy fails to recognize these liaisons as an indication of Yvette's loneliness. Even after she mentions that Mr. Fryer has amorous feelings towards her, Duddy rejects this forthright. He views Yvette primarily as an asset to facilitate his acquisition of land, mistakenly considering her employment under him as indicative of her desire for upward economic mobility, rather than for what it truly is, her loving support. Duddy does not recognize the value of heeding Yvette's advice or considering her perspective, an outlook of the world so vastly different to his own growing immorality. After she leaves to care for Virgil, Duddy's immorality grows, unhindered by Yvette's grounding presence, moral superiority, and financial prowess. Duddy was raised to believe that the boy wonder is the ultimate expression of success, a poor Jewish boy from St. Urbain Street elevating himself out of poverty into the realm of financial prosperity. As Duddy's correspondence with other prominent businessmen increases, he is made aware that Jerry Dingleman is not as well known or well respected as he was raised to believe. By the end of the novel, Duddy is well aware of Dingleman's lack of morality, yet this does nothing to quell his excitement at having made it, when the waiter recognizes him as Mr. Kravitz, the landowner, and offers to start a tab. Despite his knowledge of Dingleman's immoral and illegal activities, Duddy nevertheless feels a jubilant sense of accomplishment at having emulated the success story of the boy wonder, thereby mentally justifying his own immoral actions. Duddy's passionate care of Lenny throughout the novel presents readers with a moral progression of Duddy's character. In Toronto, Duddy learns the full ramifications of Lenny's failed abortion attempt on Mr. Calder's daughter, later speaking with him and succeeding in preventing Lenny's expulsion from medical school. However, Duddy fails to recognize the true problem with Lenny. Lenny's anger at being typecast by his friends as a fearful Jew is indicative of the Zionism he presents at the end of the novel. Lenny becomes disenfranchised with his peers, allowing them to take advantage of him, out of fear of being viewed by his Gentile friends as a Jew first and a medical student second. Despite prompting Lenny's return home, Duddy's assistance fails in rectifying Lenny's self-destructive fear of disappointing his peers. Nevertheless, Duddy feels justified, as his conversation with Mr. Calder later proves to be financially fruitful. Failing to adjust or repair Lenny's outlook of the world, Duddy is only aware of his own success in speaking to a reputable businessman, promoting his own business while defending his brother.
When Virgil, who Duddy knows to be an epileptic, is paralyzed after a work-related injury, Duddy feels an inkling of remorse for his conscious disregard for the safety of his friend. While it might be possible to read the mode of impression left on Duddy as self-induced, Duddy's penitence is likely influenced by Yvette's disappointment in his negligence and manipulation of Virgil. Rather than affirming Yvette's discontent, Duddy's reliance on Mr. Cohen to guide his moral response in saying that Virgil's endangerment was his fault is rejected by Mr. Cohen, who asserts that accidents such as Virgil's are inevitabilities in business. Mr. Cohen proceeds to relay his own experiences as a businessman and how he has enacted several moral indiscretions, one of which nearly lands him in jail in order to be successful. Mr. Cohen teaches Duddy that a successful entrepreneur must be underhanded and do whatever it takes to prosper.
Can the reader determine Duddy to be entirely responsible for his actions, or is his morality fashioned through the individuals he is in dialogue with, robbing him of the agency to make his own decisions? Does Duddy deliberately misread other characters and their advice? Do you as the reader find anything morally redemptive about Duddy's character by the end of the novel?